My Doctor, your health anytime, anywhere. Hello, lovely people. Welcome to the My Doctor podcast. My name is Mwesigwa Joy. I am a fourth-year medical student and I'm your host. Thank you so much for tuning in. So basically on this podcast, we talk about health, all aspects of health. We want you to be able to have the knowledge to enable you to live a healthy life in terms of the diseases. How can you prevent certain diseases? How can you live healthy and everything? Yeah. And so we also have sessions where we talk to people who are in the medical field and their experience so far, for anyone who wants to venture into medicine and take that path, so that you have the knowledge and you're well empowered in that aspect. So for today, we'll be doing that. I'm here with Mr. Lens, who is going to introduce himself. So stay tuned. Hi, Mr. Lens.
Hello, Joy.
How are you?
I'm okay. How are you?
I'm fine. Could you please introduce yourself to our viewers?
So first, hello, everyone. My name is Lens Mosita Kullie. I'm a fourth-year medical student. I'm also a Liberian here in Uganda. And I happen to be one of your host's classmates. And I want to say I'm very privileged to be a part of the class. And I'm happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for coming to the show. So, Lens, I want to take you back to before coming to Uganda. Who were you before coming to Uganda? Let's start there.
I think when you ask me who was I think I'll have to take it back to the roots. I was somebody who really didn't, my identity at that time, I wasn't really conversant with who I was, And I think it's very normal because you have a lot of people coming up and as kids, we come up basically as what? Typewriters. We try to emulate what we see around. So I was everybody's kid. I was trying to please everybody, I was trying to be there for everybody. I was trying to fit in. So that's basically who I was until over the years I had to change, Yeah, that's who I was.
So what were you doing before you started to... Okay, at what point did you know you wanted to pursue medicine?
Okay, that was actually a crazy story. One of us, for some of us who actually grew up in those homes where we have our parents who are overly religious and into, Christian life and stuff, which is very good. And I would recommend that for any kid in the first place. We came up and there was a time my mom, my dad and I were together and we were actually going to see a pastor. Now, mind you, prior to that particular time, I had always planned that I was going to be a lawyer. So I always wanted to be a lawyer. And my father always used to tell me, don't be a lawyer because they bury lawyers face down in the casket. And I used to be so...
Really? But is that true?
I don't think it's true. I don't believe it's true. So I used to be so afraid. And then there was a point in time we went to our overhead pastor at that time. And then he was the one who, by the time he saw me, I was like, doctor. And that same thing of that kid trying to please everybody and so, and then I just fit into that persona and stuff. But then over the course of the years, you start to see family problems, those illnesses in the family and some of those things. When you read on them and try to get some idea, you actually see that they are actually avoidable if you actually try to do what is necessary. So it was actually from that day that I actually decided that, I wanted to be a lawyer, but I see a lot of things going on around me, which I think I can fix. So I think I should try to
fix them.
Yeah, go towards
in the
being
medical field. Yeah. So after that, you get into school
So, our country, Liberia, we unlike Uganda that has kind of like a British system. I think for us in Liberia, we have an American type of system where before you actually become a doctor, you must have a bachelor's in a science course.
How long are those bachelors?
4 years.
So let me get this straight. At what age does high school end?
I ended high school at 17.
So you end high school? How many classes do you have in high school?
I think we have 14 classes.
14?
Yeah. Oh, you're talking about high school alone?
Yes,
it's 3 classes.
Oh.
10th, 11th, and 12th grade.
So when you finish, you apply for a bachelor's in science before doing medicine.
Yeah.
So you did that?
So I actually got a bachelor's in biology and chemistry before coming to Uganda.
How many years?
4 years.
What?
Yeah.
Then, okay, so if you had stayed in Liberia, how many years would it be to do medicine?
For me to be a medical doctor, I would have to have spent 9 years in school. That is 4 years for bachelor's and 5 years of medical school. Just to be a doctor, not even a specialist, not even before I even start internship.
Okay, so how was the course? What do you learn?
It was a very, very nice experience, to be honest, because the whole character development and the fact that I'm here right now and being able to exhibit certain persona, it actually came from the fact that I was, exposed to a lot of people. And I told you I was one of those kids who was trying to fit in and all of those things. So like university life actually opened my eyes to who I actually wanted to be, and I went to high school, got the scholarship, then I went to university, started to make friends, and it was a very, very humbling experience because, there's a way how you come up and you feel like, because I was 8 before I even had a sibling, so I always felt I was special. So coming to university, I realized that, bro, you're not so special. There's 10,000s of you, bro. I really, really had a serious battle, trying to fit in, and I always wanted to be the best at what I put my mind to, and that's how I actually shaped into being this kind of person I am today.
So at what point do you choose to come to Uganda, and why?
My coming to Uganda was a I don't want to say a mistake. I think it's fate. I want to say it's destiny, you get. Because I had never thought about coming to Uganda. I always wanted to be a doctor. I took the medical school entrance a couple of times. I wasn't successful, but I really just didn't allow it to hold me back. And then, to my utmost surprise, my mom, shout out to my mom, Mosita Kullie, she introduced me into one of our course mates who she did masters with, who's actually currently attending. He's graduating this year, Jeremy. He's graduating this year, so he was the one who was in his year 2 at that time. She told him, my son wants to be a doctor, but he's having problems with being integrated into Liberia system, and could you help him? And so that's how he applied. And it took forever for me to actually get admitted into medical school, and then I had to leave, go to Rwanda. I started doing my masters. I had given up on being a doctor, totally.
What masters were you doing in Rwanda?
Masters in public health. I had a first semester there, yeah. Because that's kind of like the thing, if you weren't successful in being a doctor, a lot of Liberians just go towards public health stuff, yeah.
So what were your expectations in, why exactly were you, because it seems like you really, really wanted, because now it seemed like you wanted for your own at this time. So what was driving you? Like, what was your inspiration?
So one of my biggest inspirations to actually want to be a doctor was actually watching my father's health, digress over the course of years, and I think one of the major reasons, up to now, I still believe that one of the major reasons why his health was deteriorating that fast was because of lack of knowledge. And, in my country, we say lack of knowledge is a disease. If you don't know how to deal with certain things, you're definitely not going to know. So I actually just wanted to understand that sickness, understand the diabetes, the hypertension, because apparently it's familiar. So it's in the family. Even my grandfather had it. Even my grandmother had it. And I also had a story where I think it took out one of my family members in the past. And I was so determined towards, trying to solve that problem. It seemed achievable at that particular time. So I wanted to do it. So that was actually my driving force towards trying to do medicine for me and my family, basically. It was a selfish interest, but yeah, that's what it was.
I don't think it's selfish, because at the end of the day, you have the knowledge and you spread it, right? Yeah. So when you reach Uganda, what did you expect, and how was?
Okay, so when I came to Uganda, prior to coming to Uganda, there's you always have those expectations, and the only reason why you have those expectations, your expectations are basically based off of the things you have experienced over the course of the years, the things you've seen, those doctors. So of course I was coming to Uganda with the anticipation of being a doctor because of the inspiration I got from the doctors from home, you get. So I want to be like, wearing my white coats, wear my state, and being someone that people can look up to, and actually trying to provide solutions to solvable problems that people tend to go through on a daily basis that can even threaten their lives. I think it was really, really something that drove me towards, being a doctor. And that's one of the major reasons why my expectations here in Uganda was to be the man for the job, basically the man.
So how has your experience been so far? It's
been very, very nice. I think I even had a conversation recently with a stranger, because I always like to start conversations with people on the street, because I like to listen to people's stories.
Random people?
Yeah, random people. I try to do that sometimes. I go for evening walks and then I see someone and be like, what have you been through? Like, tell me what you've been up to. So I told her, I was like, I think Uganda is actually one of the major driving forces towards the personality that I'm supposed to exhibit in the outside world. I think Uganda has actually shaped me in that way, because it's been a very humbling experience. My very first day in medical school, I actually wanted to call my mom and tell her and told her I wanted to go back, because I saw guys who were so smart, and a lot of students here who get into the medical school are actually fresh out of high school, compared to me, who was already a university graduate. So I felt like I didn't fit in. I felt like I was a bit too old for the class, and I really had, I had struggles with my identity as a student at that time. So I was really trying to fit in. But well and good. Where we are right now, I would have it no other way, because Uganda has actually shaped me into being someone who I never thought I was. And it's shocking to even people who knew me 4 or 5 years ago. So that's good, I guess.
So what advice would you give to someone who wants to venture in that field?
One of the major things, medicine as a profession is seen as something that's sacred. Like you have to be special. You need like an extra gift, What I would tell to you right now is, number one, it needs to come from a desire. You need to desire it. It needs to come from within. It needs to be personal. That's the first thing. The second thing is, I don't think it's quite unorthodox for a lot of people. I think anyone can be a doctor. I don't know if you feel the same, but I feel like anyone can be a doctor, because I think it comes from the mind. I think if you focus on it, and I don't really want to be a motivational speaker to preach those, go for it. Once you see it, you go for it things. But I feel like once you find out why you want to do it, the how becomes easier. That's what I think.
So what was your most interesting part of the whole journey? Like maybe funniest moment?
I had a lot of funny moments, but I think my highlights of funny moments was when I was on ward one time, because I had the experience. You come to medical school here, first year, second year, and then third year you go to the ward. So I have a housemate. I won't mention his name for safety's sake, but he was on the ward, and then I think one of our doctors received some anonymous call, and they were listing the symptoms of the patient. Patient is unconscious, GCF less than 14, what? And the guy was like, what? Doctor, that patient is going to die. So the doctor got off his call and he was like, what did you just say? It's like, that patient is going to die. I was like, you first loosen your tie, so blood and oxygen goes towards your brain. That thing was crazy. I laughed that was my highlight. Just being able to be humbled whenever you think like you get it right. I think it's a nice experience, because it always reminds you to keep your head down as you thrive through life. Yeah. Okay.
And then also, how has been your experience as an international student? Like the challenges.
As an international student, there's a lot of challenges. Number one is the food. The food, because you're not used, especially for some of us who come to Uganda, East Africa, from West Africa, who we cook a lot of spices. I even saw when I introduced some of our dishes to people here from Uganda, you'll be like, oh, you guys cook everything. You cook fish, chicken, everything. You put them in the same bowl. And I think it's kind of strange.
Wait, you can cook like chicken, fish, meat in the same...
Eggs, sausages...
in the same bowl,
in the same soup, like the same sauce. You can put everything there. I think it was quite shocking for a lot of people. But one of the things that has actually really impressed me a lot with Uganda is the reception from the people. As an international student, it's harder if you don't have people you can relate with. If you have people who, the citizens of a particular country, try to treat you like a stranger. And there's a way how people used to tell me I look like a Ugandan, so it's easy for me to fit in anywhere. And I think the fact that Ugandans are so receptive, it has actually kept me going. So I think that's one of the props of being an international student here in Uganda. Yeah.
So what has been your most touching moment? Maybe like you treated a patient. What patient will you never forget?
I've had my first patient on ward I would never forget, because she died. God forbid. I'm so sad. She was 74-year-old. She had intestinal obstruction. She had HIV, and she had several surgeries for myomectomies. Those things. And her family thought she was going to get better, because she actually came to the hospital with full speech. GCS 15/15 basically, and we lost her after the surgery, due to those complications of old age, also with her comorbidities of diabetes and hypertension. And it was actually a troubling experience, because that was actually the day that she was supposed to get discharged. And she was my patient, and we lost her. That was so sad. I really couldn't have imagined the amount of stress and that the family had to go through during that experience. That was actually one of my highlights of experiences on ward. What was yours?
I think mine was there's this child, they also died. But so I was, how you about leave ward, ped ward. for children. And then it was like 7:30. I'm like, I'm done with the day. So this child comes in with the mom, 5 months. The child was 5 months. And then I was like, you know what? It won't hurt to clock this one more person. Actually, I hadn't clocked because I was the leader, and then we were 12. So I'd given out all the patients. There were only 11. So I was a good leader. I'm like, hey, let me give out everyone. So this is a 12 patient. So I clocked the baby. The baby had, suspected. They sent in for the results, but it was suspected to be a bacterial pneumonia. So, but the baby wasn't breathing very well. They cannot feed. So we placed an NG tube. So I was there through the entire process. We placed an NG tube. We cannulate to do everything. So I tell the mom asks me, can I breastfeed? I tell the mom, no, don't breastfeed because the baby will aspirate. However, there's this NG tube. Just express your breast milk and then we will help you to put the thingy. So her sister-in-law was a nurse. So her sister-in-law comes and she's like, that's just a medical student. She's lying. You can breastfeed.
Wow.
I'm like, what? So I bring, there was a gentleman, a male nurse around. So I tell him, I'm like, maybe they'll believe you more. I bring him. The guy tells them, don't breastfeed. The mom allows. Now the dad of the child comes and he's a clinic officer. And the dad says, no, this is a medical student and a nurse. I'm a clinic officer. You can breastfeed. Yes. So I'm like, okay. I go look for the doctor in charge. I bring the doctor. I'm like, madam, please don't breastfeed. So I left when they had not breastfed the baby. So I live like at coming to 11, like 10:50 coming to 11. I'm so happy. My history was thick because I had managed the patient. I have done everything for the patient. No sooner had I left than the baby breastfed. The lady breastfed the baby and the baby died, aspirated and died there.
For real?
There and then. So I come back in the morning. I don't know my patient died. My group mates are looking at me with sad, those puppy eyes. I'm going to go looking at me. We're supposed to present. It's Tuesday.
That was probably a Tuesday.
Yes, major round.
Yeah.
And then one of my friends, Pal, is like, Joy, your patient died. I'm like, what do you mean? I'm like, are you joking? I thought she's joking. I was laughing. She's like, no. They actually took, even the mortuary, the funeral service guys took the body at night. I'm like, what do you mean? That baby was okay. So I go to ward. The bed is empty. Quiet. The whole ward is quiet. It reaches time for presenting. The doctor is asking me, where is your patient? I'm like, doctor, my patient died. The doctor is like, why did they die? I'm like, they aspirated. It's like, why do you have one patient? I'm like, she's like, you will not attend my ward round. So coupled with the sadness of I've just lost my first patient, and now I can't attend the ward round. So I started tearing. Then she's like, and it's okay, just come. Every question that comes, I'll be percussing you. But that was a very terrible experience because I talked to this parent and told her, do not breastfeed the child when they have an NG tube. Yeah, and this goes out to all parents who are watching. When the doctors tell you something, I know I was a medical student, but I tried. I brought a nurse. I brought a doctor for reassurance. Just follow the doctors. At least search. If someone else is confusing you, go to the internet and search because I know she would have found it. But that baby was not supposed to die. Yeah. The baby was okay. They were not supposed to die. Yeah. They were crying. They were a normal baby, just could not breathe well. So yeah, so that was my most humbling.
I think it normally comes from the perspective that I think our patients need to put more energy into was trusting their caretakers and doctors. So. Because if you don't, even if that particular person at that time might not be as adequate as you would want, but at least they are trying to give you an idea that you should adhere to because it concerns the life of a particular, loved one. And I think if you try to pay attention a little bit, at least try to be adherent to your student doctors. Because, we receive the most lashes in front of the caretakers. Yeah. So I think our respect kind of goes down, So it's very, very hard for a mother to kind of trust medical students sometimes. But I think we are all operating in their best interests.
I just think if you receive two different types of information from two medical workers, cross-check. Yeah. Ask a third one or the internet, man. Yeah. And this is the lesson. This isn't the only one. Mm-hmm. The other one was there's a lady who came with a baby. Now, this was my first day in PED ward, that place where they receive babies outpatient. So this woman comes running with a baby. They hand me the baby. I'm the only one around. They hand me the baby. I look at the baby. The baby is totally yellow with blue fingers. Mm-hmm. And the baby looks dead. But I didn't know what a dead baby looks like because it's my first day on ward. So I call the doctor in charge. And then also the doctor looks. I saw her look and I'm like, this baby must be dead. And yeah, the baby was dead. Of course, we tried to like resuscitate, but we knew the baby's dead. But do you know why the baby died? Because the sister to the lady was a nurse, same issue. And the baby started turning yellow, and the nurse kept saying that that's physiological jaundice. So she was not able to differentiate between the physiological one
And the
pathological one. And the baby died like that. And it was so messed up because the lady is shouting, she's like, "You killed my child," talking to the sister. The sister is also crying. I didn't know. It was so messed up.
Yeah, that must have been a very terrible experience. Very, very terrible experience. I wouldn't want to go through something like that. And, we always try to have scenarios. They always kind of like are the same, because I think the only reason why those scenarios are kind of like the same is because we are dealing with patients who are not going to have the medical knowledge, so they are always going to kind of like fall into the same mistakes. There are going to be those patterns that are going to be created for those patients. So I think there needs to be a serious awareness done for patients in that particular situation so that we can be able to help them. Because, the fact that those things are avoidable is what pains you the most.
Yeah, and I think that's why it's important to do things like this to educate people. Education, even if you're just a doctor out there and you have a social media platform, you just get out your phone and talk about things like front to back wiping, all that stuff. Yeah. Anyway, so let's switch to the Liberian Students Association. How is that going?
Leadership has been one of the lessons that I had to learn the hard way. Being a president of ALSU, there's a way how everybody expects you to know, and if you are a leader I think one of the most important things for any leader to possess is empathy. So I don't think it's about you. It's about the people, and ALSU has taught me that the hard way, because sometimes you would want to get pissed because it's personal, it's triggering to you, but you need to put yourself back and make sure that the utmost objective is actually the people you are serving. So that's actually a humbling experience. And I think it goes a long way. Even before you even choose your leadership, for some of our students who have interest in coming to medical school, even before you choose a leadership, there's that thing that comes, you choose Joy because Joy is good with people. You choose this, So I really don't think it should be about choosing those people because people said you should choose them. I think it should all boil down to the fact that Joy is actually going to be capable to do the job. Because how you appoint a couple of people because they are popular in the university, and then when the time actually comes for them to do the work, and people are so disappointing. So I think you being able to run an institution like ALSU, or for you are even the vice president of our university, so I know it must have been very, very troubling and educating for you. But I think one of the most important things is always try to look for the positives and not try to dwell on the negatives a lot. I think it helps you go throughout anything in life, not just leadership, but life as a whole. Yeah.
Okay. So when you get back to medical school, what has been your biggest challenge so far?
Time management. Time management. I don't know if it's a thing, but how we left high school, we went to college, and it always seemed that we had all the time in the world. I don't know if it happened to you, but you always just find yourself sitting around doing nothing. I don't experience that anymore. You're always indebted to someone. You always have to do something, and especially for people like us who pay attention to these things of podcasts, pay attention to leadership, as well as trying to be a doctor, being a generalist and not a specialist, kind of like derails you from your utmost objective. So I think time management is very, very crucial for anyone, even if you're coming to medical school, even if you're not planning on going to medical school, even if you are planning on living life, you really need to be able to manage your time effectively, because it can cost you sometimes. Yeah.
I understand. So lastly, how do you manage your stress? Because I think medical school, I don't think it is stressful at a point. It gets overwhelming. So how would you encourage someone to manage their stress, even in other fields? If someone is watching and they're really overwhelmed, for you as a person, what do you do? What would you recommend?
That's a very relative question, because managing stress is very, very relative. It depends on who's asking and who's answering. You know what I mean? So, okay, for me, my ideal way to manage stress, number one, is to reduce my social media time, because I feel like there's a way how social media kind of puts you on the edge, and you always feel like you're not good enough or you're not adequate. So just allowing yourself to breathe, And another thing I always do, wake up in the morning, don't touch my phone for like an hour. Go sit outside in the open field, with the plants and everything, and just meditate and write whatever idea comes to my head. Because I was telling you, we had a conversation, I was telling you, I call those ideas liquid gold. Because sometimes you find out that certain things will cross your mind and you would never ever think about them for the rest of your life. So I always like to trap those things, as well as forming interpersonal relationships. If you want to come to medical school, one of the major things you need to pay attention to is who you're going to be studying with. Because number one, you can't do this all on your own. So you need a support system. So if you have a support system, you are not necessarily going to be choosing that support system because you want them to teach you the lessons, but you also need them as friends. You need to confide in them if you're going through problems and so. So if you are able to meditate, be able to deal with people, being able to exercise, because I try to stay in the gym as often as possible. That also tries to heal brain fog. I think, sometimes you sit around and you can't think, but you go and exercise, run 20 minutes on the treadmill, and you find yourself exploring ideas that you never thought you had. So there's a couple of things, you should also go out. I would recommend that. That would actually be a prescription for me one day. I would recommend that. You need to go out. You need to have interactions with people. You need to see people, because that is very therapeutic. And one of the things that people don't really tell you is, whether you like it or not, your world is going to revolve around people. Now, you being a medical doctor, or you being an engineer or a physicist, you are doing everything you are doing because you are trying to improve the lives of what? Of people. So I think it's highly incumbent on each and every one of us to really pay attention to who's around us and how we can be able to use those relationships to our best advantage. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. We've come to the end. So I'd want to request you to look directly into the camera and give any random medical advice to the people out there. Anything that crosses your mind right now. Just any medical advice to people who are watching.
Okay. Medical advice to the general public. I think it's very important that we see. One of the reasons why people normally get sick, people who have malaria, is because they were exposed to Plasmodium parasite. People who have hypertension or diabetes probably have uncontrollable diet and sedentary lifestyle. So if I'm going to give an advice to mitigate or to improve health of people, I think it's going to be your surrounding. I think we really need to pay attention to our surrounding. People don't talk about it as much. I know people want to come and tell and expect that, avoid the crash gene because it gives you adenocarcinoma, those things. No, but I think it's very important that you pay attention to your surroundings. Clean your surroundings, observe your lifestyle, because those are the things that are going to cost you in the future. It's all cumulative. It comes in additions. So I think if you pay attention, try to exercise as often as possible, eat a lot of fruits, eat healthy. If you don't spend your life taking food as medication, you spend your rest of your life taking medication as food. I think it's very important that you pay attention to that and always prioritize your health. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Lens, for sharing your journey. I'm sure it's going to help someone out there. Thank you so much for sparing time to come to the podcast. Really appreciate. To the people out there, as you've heard, make sure you look at your surrounding and what is around your lifestyle. Actually, we have podcasts that we have been posting about lifestyle, about metabolic syndrome, obesity, exercising, alcohol, smoking, all that. So if you need more knowledge about that, feel free to go to our podcast page, that's Hipipo TV or My Dr. Africa, and look out for those podcasts. Otherwise, hope you've enjoyed this podcast like I have. Hope you've taken a sneak peek into the life of Lens as a medical student and what it does. And I hope for anyone who's watching this and you want to venture in that field, hope you have picked something and it has been helpful to you. Thank you so much for watching. This is the My Doctor podcast. My Doctor, your health anytime, anywhere.
My Doctor, your health anytime, anywhere.